I'm Mike 38 and I work as a barista at a small cafe on the edge of the suburbs in Chicago. Not exactly the dream job, but it pays the bills and it keeps me around people, which is more than I can say for some parts of my life lately. I'm the kind of guy who lives in the background, who avoids drama, who keeps his hopes somewhere safely hidden in the back pocket of his hoodie. I'm not the guy who's ever had the confidence to just go for it, at least not when it comes to dating. My best friend Jenny would say, I'm a late bloomer, but I think I'm just cautious. I've been burned before, and it left me a little weary, maybe too weary. That's why I usually stick to small talk, quick smiles, and not much else. But then one rainy Tuesday, everything changed, or at least it started to. She walked in like she owned the place, not the kind of ownership that screams, I'm better than you, but the kind that just radiates quiet confidence. She was around 50, I guess, with silver-streaked hair that shimmered under the cafe's fluorescent lights, and eyes that looked like they had stories to tell, stories I wanted to hear, even though I'd never say that out loud. She ordered a black coffee, simple, no nonsense. She looked at me with this playful glint and said, busy day. I shrugged. Yeah, same old. Then out of nowhere, trying to break the ice, I joked, if you were 40, I'd marry you. It was dumb, it was awkward, but it was true, kind of. She laughed a deep, genuine laugh that filled the room. I'm 50. Does that stop you? She shot back, eyebrow raised. I blinked. For a moment, I thought she was messing with me. Maybe she was just testing if I had the guts to keep the conversation going. So I smiled and said, nope, guess I'm in trouble. Her name was Linda, and she wasn't just another customer. From that moment, she became the unexpected highlight of my day. Linda was unlike anyone I'd met in years. She worked as a freelance graphic designer, juggling client deadlines and trying to keep her creative spark alive. She told me about her kids grown and scattered across the country, and about her divorce 3 years ago, amicable but bittersweet. What hit me was her honesty. She wasn't hiding her pain or pretending to have everything figured out. She was real. I'm not looking for a knight in shining armor, she told me one afternoon, sipping the coffee I'd made her just right, black, no sugar. I'm looking for someone who can handle the chaos and still make me laugh. That's when I knew this wasn't just a fleeting moment. I wanted to be that guy. But then there was Jenny, my best friend since high school, a whirlwind of energy and opinions wrapped in a bright scarf and a sharp wit. She was also my self-appointed relationship coach, the kind who tells you like it is no sugarcoating. Mike, she said one evening after I told her about Linda, you gotta stop being so scared. Life's short, and if she's giving you signs, you better read them. I nodded but shrugged. It's not just fear. I don't know if I'm ready to mess up again or if she even wants me. Jenny rolled her eyes. You don't get the girl if you don't try, period. Her bluntness was exhausting but effective. She pushed me to text Linda first, then ask her out properly, no more hiding behind barista counters or dumb jokes. Enter Tom, my coworker and unofficial dating guru, who has all the answers but none of the results. Tom's advice was often more comedy than help, like the time he suggested I impress Linda with a grand romantic gesture, which for a guy who once burned toast trying to make breakfast was a disaster waiting to happen. You need to be bold, Mike, Tom said, nodding seriously. Tell her how you feel, maybe serenade her outside the cafe. I laughed. You want me to embarrass myself? Exactly, that's love embarrassment included. Needless to say, I passed on the serenade, but Tom's enthusiasm was infectious. Between Jenny's pushes and Tom's wild ideas, I felt myself slowly waking up from the cautious haze I'd been living in. One morning, Linda walked in looking unusually quiet. Usually she was all smiles and quick laughs, but today her eyes were clouded with something heavy. I made her usual coffee, handed it over, and sat with her for a moment in silence. What's on your mind? I asked gently. She sighed. I'm scared, Mike's scared, that at my age I'm invisible, that no one wants to start over with someone like me. Her vulnerability caught me off guard. It was a reminder that under the confident exterior, she carried fears much like mine. Linda, I said softly, you're not invisible, and you're definitely not alone. She looked at me, this tiny flicker of hope returning to her eyes. Maybe you're braver than me. Maybe we're braver together. That's when it hit me. Maybe age really was just a number. Maybe what mattered was the chance to laugh, to stumble, to get up again with someone who gets it. The cafe bell jingled as a few more customers came in, but for that moment it felt like it was just me and Linda against the world. And maybe, just maybe, this joke, the one about marrying a 40-year-old, was the start of something real. The day wrapped up with Jenny texting me nonstop about how I was about to become a love story while Tom sent ridiculous memes about midlife romance. I smiled, realizing that whatever happened next, I was ready to take the chance. Because sometimes the best things come when you least expect them, even if they start with a joke. I didn't expect much from the morning when Linda walked into the cafe again, exactly a week after that awkward but promising conversation. It was the kind of day that felt ordinary rain tapping gently against the windows, the usual clatter of cups and low hum of chatter. But for me, something had shifted, like the air was suddenly thicker, charged with possibilities I hadn't dared to imagine before. Linda took her usual seat by the window, the one that caught the best sunlight despite the clouds outside. She smiled when she saw me, that same mischievous glint in her eyes that made my chest tighten a bit, a sensation I hadn't felt in a long time, maybe ever. "Black coffee, Mike," she said, voice soft but with that unmistakable edge of humor. "You got it," I replied, trying to keep my tone casual but failing to hide the flutter of nerves I felt every time she sat down. As I prepared her drink, I caught Jenny's eye from across the room. She was sitting with her laptop, but the raised eyebrow and smirk told me she was fully invested in my Linda situation. Jenny had been relentless in her campaign to push me out of my comfort zone, like a personal cheerleader with a fiery temper. "Today's the day, Mike. You're either going to charm her or completely embarrass yourself," she mouthed, flashing me a thumbs up. I rolled my eyes but smiled. Jenny was right to be hopeful. I just hoped I could live up to it. When I brought the coffee over, Linda looked up and said, "Thanks, Mike. You're getting really good at this." "That's what happens when you have a regular," I said, feeling a bit braver. She took a sip, then sighed. I needed this. It wasn't just about coffee. It was about something deeper, and I sensed she wanted to talk. I settled into the chair opposite her, letting the hum of the cafe fade into the background. "So tell me," I said, "what's the story behind you? What brought you here?" Linda paused, eyes drifting to the window, watching raindrops race each other down the glass. "I guess I'm trying to figure out what happens next after everything," she said quietly. "After the divorce, the kids, moving out, the quiet nights that suddenly feel endless." Her honesty hit me like a punch. I'd always thought people like Linda, confident, sharp, funny, had it all figured out, but she was just as human as me, full of fears and hopes tangled up in the same messy knot. "I'm scared, Mike," she admitted, voice trembling just slightly. "Scared that maybe I'm past my prime, that the best parts of life are behind me." It felt like a confessional, and I didn't want to be the guy who just nodded politely and changed the subject. "Linda," I said softly, "you're not past anything. Life's full of surprises. You just have to be willing to take a chance." She looked at me like I'd said something unexpected, maybe even a little foolish, but then she smiled. That was the moment I realized I wanted to be more than just the guy who makes her coffee, but I still didn't know how to cross that line from barista to whatever this was. Jenny, of course, had ideas. "You need to ask her out properly," she said that evening, throwing a half-eaten slice of pizza at me during our weekly hangout. "None of this, 'Hey, want to grab coffee' nonsense. Do something memorable." I snorted. "Like what set off fireworks in the cafe?" "Maybe not fireworks," Jenny conceded, "but something. Show her you're serious." That's when Tom waltzed in, my coworker and the self-proclaimed expert on love and life. He was wearing his usual too bright shirt and a grin that screamed, "This is going to be good." "You guys talking about dating?" Tom asked, plopping down next to me. Jenny rolled her eyes. "Trying to get Mike to man up." Tom nodded. "Bold moves, my friend. You need to be bold, like tell her exactly how you feel." I groaned. "I'm not about to pour my heart out in the middle of a cafe." "Then do it somewhere cool, a walk in the park, a visit to that old bookshop she mentioned. Make it about her." Linda had mentioned loving that little bookshop down the street once. Maybe Tom was onto something. The next few days were a blur of nerves and overthinking. Every time Linda walked in, I found myself fumbling for words or turning red like a kid caught passing notes in class. But Linda, with her effortless charm, just laughed and teased me. Relax, Mike, you don't have to be perfect. Easy for you to say, I muttered. You're a pro at this. Hardly, she said, eyes twinkling. I've had my share of awkward moments, too. She told me about one particularly humiliating date from a few years back involving a salsa class, a sprained ankle, and a man who insisted on dancing despite clearly having two left feet. We both laughed so hard, I thought I might choke on my coffee. It felt like we were building something, a connection stitched together by shared jokes, moments of vulnerability, and that crazy, unpredictable chemistry. But life isn't a rom-com where everything goes smoothly. One afternoon, as I was wiping down tables, Jenny pulled me aside looking serious. Mike, she said quietly, I saw Linda talking to someone outside a guy. Seemed intense. My stomach dropped. Who was he? Jenny shrugged. No idea, but if you like her, you better figure this out. I wanted to ask Linda about it, but fear held me back. What if I was reading too much into nothing? What if I looked jealous or insecure? The next time Linda came in, I couldn't keep it to myself. Hey, I saw you talking to a guy outside the other day, I blurted. She smiled unfazed. Oh, that was just my neighbor Frank. We've known each other for years. I felt silly. Sorry for jumping to conclusions. She reached over and tapped my hand lightly. Mike, you're sweet, but don't worry. There's no Frank drama here. That moment, though small, felt like a milestone. We were starting to trust each other enough to share little fears and doubts, no matter how ridiculous. Linda's presence was becoming something I looked forward to every day. Not just because she was beautiful or witty, but because she made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I wasn't alone. And as I closed the cafe that night, I realized I was beginning to hope. Hope that this crazy, messy thing called life could surprise me yet. It's funny how life can throw you off balance when you least expect it. Just when I thought Linda and I were settling into this comfortable, easy rhythm, those casual coffee talks and the little jokes we shared, suddenly everything got a little more complicated, like laugh so hard you snort complicated. It all started on a Tuesday morning. I was wiping down the counter at the cafe, running through my mental checklist of things to do, when Jenny breezed in like a tornado, dragging her latest project along with her. This is Rachel, Jenny said, practically beaming, my cousin from out of town. Rachel, this is Mike, the guy who's been driving me crazy about this whole Linda thing. Rachel smiled, a bit shy, clutching her oversized tote bag. She looked like someone who belonged more in a yoga studio than a cafe, calm, grounded, and exuding this quiet strength that was impossible to ignore. So you're the barista with the big crush, Rachel teased lightly, raising an eyebrow. I laughed, which felt weirdly good. Finally, someone else acknowledged the obvious. Jenny winked at me like she was winning some secret battle. Linda walked in a few minutes later like she had a sixth sense for drama. She spotted Rachel, gave me a quick surprised smile, and sat down. Who's your friend? Linda asked, eyes twinkling. Jenny launched into a rapid-fire explanation that ended with, so Mike and Rachel should hang out, double date style. My brain instantly short-circuited. Double date with Jenny's cousin. How was this a thing that was happening? My idea of a date was barely advanced enough to not spill coffee on myself. Despite my internal panic, the idea kind of grew on me. Linda seemed amused, Rachel was friendly, and Jenny, well, Jenny was in full matchmaking mode, which meant there was no turning back. We decided on a casual dinner at a little Italian place that had the kind of atmosphere where you could hear the wine glasses clinking and strangers laughing without it feeling like a scene from a movie. It was the kind of spot Linda said she liked, cozy, unpretentious, and full of character. Rachel arrived first, calm and composed. Linda showed up a little later, looking effortlessly stylish, in a way that made me wonder how someone could make simplicity look so complicated. Jenny, of course, was late. She had a knack for making grand entrances, barging in with a dramatic apology and a giant box of pastries for emergency dessert situations, she declared. The dinner started off with easy conversation. Favorite movies, ridiculous childhood stories, and that universal topic of, why are people so terrible at texting back? Linda told us about her job as a freelance editor, a career that gave her the freedom she craved, but also meant she was often juggling projects and deadlines alone. Rachel shared stories about her work as a yoga instructor and how she was trying to open a small studio downtown. Her passion was infectious, and I found myself admiring her quiet determination. Jenny kept the mood light, tossing in jokes that made Linda laugh so hard she almost snorted, which was quickly followed by one of those moments where I just wanted to freeze time and memorize the way her eyes crinkled. But then came the twist. Midway through dinner, Rachel casually mentioned her recent breakup with someone named Mark, a guy who apparently had more commitment issues than a squirrel has nuts. Linda, always the empathetic one, leaned in and shared a story about her own rocky relationship with a man named Dave, who, spoiler alert, turned out to be a bit of a narcissist. The conversation shifted suddenly deeper and rawer. We weren't just swapping funny stories anymore. We were opening up about fears, disappointments, and the challenges of starting over at an age when most people expect you to have it all figured out. Linda's voice cracked when she talked about how hard it was to date after 50, how every new beginning felt like trying to learn a language that everyone else already spoke fluently. I shared my own fears about feeling stuck, about whether I was brave enough to take risks that mattered. Rachel reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You're doing better than you think," she said gently. After dinner, Jenny suggested we all go for a walk in the nearby park. It was chilly, the kind of cold that makes your cheeks rosy and your breath visible. Linda and I walked side by side, the conversation drifting to more personal territory. "I didn't expect this," she said, her voice soft. "I mean, you and me here. It's nice." "Nice good or nice awkward?" I asked, grinning. "Definitely good, maybe even a little bit exciting," she admitted. We laughed, and for a moment I thought about how unpredictable life could be, how one joke about marrying a 40-year-old had led me here. Just as I was beginning to feel comfortable, my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number popped up. "We need to talk. It's about Linda." My heart skipped a beat. I showed Linda the message. Her smile faded, replaced by something I hadn't seen before, guarded, wary. "Who is it?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "An old friend," she said. "Someone I haven't spoken to in years." Before I could press further, Rachel appeared, her face suddenly serious. "You two need to be careful. Sometimes the past doesn't stay in the past." That night, as I lay in bed, replaying the day's events, I realized this wasn't just a story about a barista and a woman over 50 sharing coffee and laughs. It was about navigating the messiness of real life, the unexpected friendships, the fears we hide, the laughter that makes the tough moments bearable, and the shadows lurking just beyond the glow of hope. Linda was no longer just a woman I joked about marrying. She was a person with a past, a future, and the courage to face both. And I was starting to hope that maybe I could be part of that future too. I never thought a text message could turn my world upside down, but that night proved otherwise. The mysterious message about Linda came with a weight that settled heavily on my chest. I stared at my phone screen for what felt like hours, debating whether to ask Linda about it or pretend I hadn't seen it, but pretending isn't my strong suit. The next morning, I found her at the usual cafe spot, reading a book with a half smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "We need to talk," I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Linda sighed, closing the book slowly. "All right, you caught me." That message was from Brian. Brian. The name hit me like a punchline I wasn't prepared for. "Who's Brian?" "An old friend, or maybe more than a friend, once," she said, tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "We lost touch years ago, but he just showed up again." I blinked, trying to process it. "Showed up like out of nowhere." She nodded, biting her lip. "Yeah, and he's stirring up old stuff I thought I'd buried." That old stuff quickly became the center of my world as Linda opened up about a complicated past, a failed marriage that ended painfully, a business that went under, and the lingering ghosts of trust betrayed. "I don't like talking about it," she confessed one afternoon while we took a walk by the river. "But I want you to know the real me, not just the jokes or the coffee shop smiles." It hit me how rare it was for someone to be so raw and honest, especially at this point in life. I realized then that Linda wasn't just a character in my daydreams. She was a real person with fears and dreams just like me. Our circle expanded unexpectedly when Jenny invited us to a neighborhood block party. Jenny, bless her heart, had a habit of dragging us into situations that were equal parts awkward and hilarious. The block party was a riot of mismatched personalities, from Mr. Henderson, the grumpy retired cop who insisted on grilling everything his way, to Carla, the overly enthusiastic PTA mom, who tried to recruit me for bake sales despite my well-known inability to bake anything edible. Linda and I stuck together, navigating the crowd like cautious explorers. Jenny, of course, flitted around, charming everyone with her wild stories and infectious laughter. Then came Rick. Rick was Jenny's new boyfriend, and a loud, boisterous guy with a laugh that could wake the dead, and a presence that filled the room before he even walked in. From the moment he spotted Linda and me, Rick made it his mission to test our budding relationship. "So, Mike," he said with a smirk, "how's it feel dating a woman who's got half a century of life experience? Bet you didn't see that coming." I chuckled. "If she were 40, I'd marry her, but since she's 50, I'm still thinking about it." Rick laughed hard, slapping me on the back. "Man, you're braver than I thought." Linda shot Rick a look that said, "Don't push your luck." But there was something in her eyes that sparkled a mix of amusement and challenge. That evening, the neighborhood gossip mill started spinning. By the next day, there were whispers and sideways glances. Linda, usually unbothered by small-town chatter, seemed unsettled. "I hate how people think they can just judge us like we're characters in a soap opera," she said bitterly. I wanted to say something reassuring, but words felt flimsy. Then Jenny surprised me. "You know gossip's inevitable, but we control what we let define us." Her words stuck with me as I realized how fragile our little bubble was. Linda's past, my own insecurities, and the judgmental eyes of a town that loved drama were all swirling around us like a storm. Amidst the chaos, Linda and I found unexpected moments of calm. One night we sat on her porch swing wrapped in blankets and sharing stories about our childhoods. Hers full of road trips and family dinners, mine of awkward teenage years and first crushes. "I guess we're both a little damaged," Linda joked softly. "Yeah," I smiled. "But maybe damaged is just another word for interesting." She laughed, and in that laughter was a promise that no matter what storms came, we'd face them together with humor and heart. Just when I thought I was starting to understand the rhythm of this complicated dance, another surprise hit. Linda's ex, Dave, the narcissist opiate she'd warned me about, suddenly reappeared in town, not to rekindle old flames, but with his own agenda that threatened to pull her back into a world she desperately wanted to leave behind. Dave showed up at the cafe, making a scene that had half the customers whispering and the other half pretending not to listen. Linda handled it with grace, but I could see the tension beneath her calm exterior. This episode of our lives was no longer just about jokes and coffee. It was about resilience, trust, and the messy business of opening your heart when the past keeps knocking. Linda, with all her scars and strength, had become more than just the woman who laughed at my silly jokes. She was the person who challenged me, scared me, and made me believe in the possibility of something real. And me, I was learning that sometimes love isn't about perfect timing or ideal circumstances. It's about showing up, being honest, and daring to take the next step, even when the road ahead is anything but clear. The morning sun filtered softly through the curtains, painting Linda's living room in a warm golden glow. It was hard to believe how much had changed since that first awkward meeting over a broken-down car and my ridiculous joke about marrying a 40-year-old. Now here we were, closer than ever, but still wrestling with everything life had thrown our way. Linda was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she made coffee. The scent was rich and comforting, a perfect counterpoint to the nervous knot in my stomach. Today felt different, important. I paced the living room, rehearsing the words I wanted to say, the questions I wanted to ask. But as always, words tangled up the moment before I could even begin. Linda appeared with two mugs, handing me one with that familiar smile, the one that never failed to make me feel like everything was going to be okay. "You're awfully quiet this morning," she teased. "Just thinking," I admitted, taking a careful sip of the coffee, feeling the warmth spread through me, "about us, about everything." She sat down beside me, her eyes curious but patient. "Well, spill it." Over breakfast, I told her about the job offer in the next city, a promotion I'd been dreaming of for years. It was everything I'd worked for, but now it felt like a giant question mark. Could I take it without leaving Linda behind? Could I ask her to come with me? Could she even imagine starting fresh again after everything? Linda listened, her expression unreadable. After a long pause, she said, Mike, life's about risks, right? Maybe this is ours. Her words should have made it easier, but they also scared me. I realized that love, as much as it filled me with hope, also forced me to face fears I'd never let surface before: fear of change, of losing what felt safe, of starting over at my age. That day, Jenny dropped by with her usual whirlwind of energy and gossip. So are you two finally going to make it official, or what? She asked, eyes sparkling with mischief. Linda rolled her eyes but smiled. Jenny, you and your timing. Jenny grinned in. Hey, I'm just saying, life's too short to waste on maybes. You've got to jump. Her blunt honesty was both refreshing and terrifying. Jump, that word kept echoing in my head. Meanwhile, the town seemed to be buzzing with a mix of curiosity and skepticism. Mr. Henderson, the retired cop who had reluctantly warmed up to us, gave me a nod of approval when he saw Linda at the hardware store. Don't let that one slip away, he muttered under his breath, loud enough for me to hear. But then there was Carla, the PTA mom, who wasn't shy about her opinions. Mike, you know she's had a rough past. Are you ready for all that baggage? Her words stung more than I expected. Linda's past wasn't just hers, it was ours now too. The days that followed were a strange dance of hope and hesitation. Linda and I tried to balance the excitement of the future with the realities of the present. We laughed over inside jokes and debated which couch to buy, but there were moments of silence that stretched too long, filled with questions neither of us dared to ask out loud. One evening as we walked through the park, Linda stopped suddenly. Mike, what scares you the most? I shrugged, not trusting my voice at first. That I'll mess this up, that I'm not enough. She took my hand, squeezing it gently. You're more than enough, we just have to believe that. Then came the surprise visit from Brian, the old friend Linda had mentioned before. He showed up unannounced, awkward, and clearly out of place, but with a sincerity that caught me off guard. I'm sorry for how I disappeared before, Brian said quietly. I just wanted to say you deserve someone who sticks around. Linda's eyes softened. Thank you, Brian. That means a lot. His visit wasn't easy for Linda, but it was a reminder that the past could visit without dragging us down, and if we were strong enough to face it. Meanwhile, Rick, Jenny's boyfriend, kept pushing me to take the leap. Mike, if you don't make a move, you'll regret it. Life's got a way of passing you. Oh. His words, though sometimes blunt, echoed a truth I couldn't ignore. Finally, the day arrived. I had the job offer letter in my hand and Linda by my side. We sat on the porch swing, the same one where we'd shared so many quiet moments. I'm scared, I admitted, but I'm also ready if you're with me. Linda smiled, her eyes shining with that fearless spark I'd come to love. Mike, I'm 50, not dead. Let's jump. So we did. Life didn't magically become perfect overnight. There were challenges, awkward moments, and plenty of laughter along the way. We learned that love wasn't just about grand gestures, but about the messy, beautiful work of showing up every day with all our fears, dreams, and imperfections. And in that, we found something real, something worth fighting for, because sometimes all it takes is a little courage, a lot of coffee, and the willingness to say yes to the unexpected. The story of Mike and Linda offers a powerful lesson about embracing vulnerability and the courage to take risks no matter where you are in life. Mike's impulsive joke, if you were 40, I'd marry you, and Linda's bold response, I'm 50. Does that stop you? Sparked a connection that transcended age and fear. Their journey shows that love and meaningful relationships don't follow a script. They thrive in the messy, honest moments of shared laughter, doubts, and resilience. Linda's openness about her fears of being past her prime and Mike's struggle with his own insecurities reveal a universal truth: we all carry scars, but those imperfections can forge deeper bonds when we dare to be real. Despite gossip, past shadows, and unexpected challenges like mysterious texts or exes resurfacing, they chose to show up for each other, proving that taking a chance on connection is worth the risk. This story resonates because it reminds us that life's surprises, whether a job offer, a new love, or a leap of faith, require us to step out of our comfort zones and trust in the possibility of something beautiful. What's a risk you've taken that led to an unexpected connection? Share your story in the comments. We'd love to hear it. If Mike and Linda's tale inspired you, hit that subscribe button and join our Life Unscripted community for more heartfelt stories that remind us to live bravely and love deeply. Don't miss out. Let's keep the journey going together.